Steering wheel, somebody tell him to give it to me.
There's something loose between my legs.
I don't know. Let go!
I'm heavier than a freaking boat.
Nothing he's could say could make that any better.
Yeah, nobody.
No more radio for the rest of the race.
I'm going home. You.
Hello and welcome to DRS FC, an F1 podcast by some soccer nerds. I am indeed a soccer nerd. I'm Andre Carlisle, and I've got two soccer nerds with me. Ebony is one soccer nerd. Ebony, how are you?
Great. How are you?
I'm good, and also don't lie to the people. You got a busted ankle.
All right. Yes. Damn. Andre, fine. Yes, I hurt my ankle this morning going to work, and it has not gotten. It feels okay. It's okay.
All right. Again, I would say don't lie to the people, but it's fine. It's baby steps. It's fine. I hope you feel better soon though, because those swollen ankles ain't no joke. I know I got really bad eyesight, and I sprained my ankle once and continued to play basketball on it when I was in school. And I woke up and I saw my ankle, and I just immediately yelled for my mom because my eyesight is that bad. Like, I shouldn't be able to see you.
Nope.
So yeah, it was massive. Hopefully you're not going through that. Another soccer nerd, Kyle. Kyle, how are you?
I'm doing all right. It snowed a lot, but I've also played a lot of Civilization 7 because I'm a nerd like that. It's been fun, but yeah, someone that's broken their ankle, it's not fun to try and move around, even twisting or spraining it.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, it's weird. Like ankle is an obvious one really, but like it's almost like everything hurts when you have something. Like it's just one of those injuries where everything hurts. Like you sneeze and you're like, my ankle. Like that didn't have nothing to do with my ankle, but it just hurts.
Trying to drive?
Oh my God.
Oh God.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. That's wild. So, okay. Aside from ankle talk, what we're going to do is move on with our team previews. We've been going up in reverse order, up the Constructors' Championship and how it ended last season. So we had 4 for you, the bottom 4 in preview 1, and now we're moving up the table. We're going to do 3, and it's wild to say moving up the table because this also includes Alpine, but we're going to get there. But we're moving up the table just to introduce you to the teams, get you set about where they are, where they kind of were last season. We're also going to drop a hot take about the team as well. So we're just doing this kind of as a preseason way to build up to Drive to Survive, which is coming out soon, and then also the season, which is going to start soon. So in this episode, we got Ebony, obviously, going to talk about Alpine. Yeah. I'm going to talk about Aston Martin and my favorite Nepo baby, Lance Stroll. And then Kyle is going to talk about Mercedes, which Mercedes should feel real bad that they here with Aston Martin and Alpine, but we'll talk about it later. So we'll get into all of that. So let's get started after a quick break. Ebony, you know what it is. You in the tank for Alpine, so we could have nobody else introduce Alpine to the people than you. So please let the people know about Alpine.
I'm rocking with Alpine because they're rocking with me, okay? That is my vibe for 2025 in Alpine. Alpine brings 2 drivers to the track, Jack Doohan and Pierre Gasly. Last year, they finished 6th, which was kind of shocking because they started absolute terribly. But a big race in Brazil towards the end and some really small upgrades to the car saw them finish in 6th place last year. Gasly finished in 10th. Recently departed Ocon finished in 14th. So some changes. Obviously, Ocon said goodbye. Jack took seat number 2. Some changes in the garage. Flavio joined as in an advisory role. Ollie replaced Bruno as team principal. And shockingly, Colapinto did not get a seat in F1. He is now the reserve driver for Alpine in 2025. So some changes that they made throughout the year, obviously in the paddocks with team principal, things like that, also helped improve their car. But they made a little bit of smaller impacts throughout the year that they were hoping that would help build to 2026 when the new regulations come into play. But hopefully with those changes that we saw, as I mentioned, Brazil getting them a good result, them not doing too bad in Vegas, hopefully those changes help them stay in the hunt for what I'm going to predict for my hot take, but we'll get to that in a second because everybody knows the bet that is in my heart. So let's talk about the drivers a little bit. So Gasly, where do I think he finishes? I'm going to give him a very big improvement because he's finished in 10th. I'm going to have him go in 7th. That's a big jump. Like, these cars are fast. A lot of people have made a lot of improvements. But I think that car gets him into that hunt. Now, for Jack, I hope he does well, but I got him at 14th. I know that's different than what I said at the beginning. Only because I think he beats Kimi in the placements. But that's another hot take. I see Kyle shaking his head. This is going to be a great battle all year, sir. I love it. Okay. Their biggest challenge for 2025 is keeping Jack consistent and on the track. Because there's a really good driver behind him that's hoping to take his spot in Colapinto. So while competition is good, it also can be demoralizing, especially if you're doing bad and they're like, well, Colapinto's right there. If you want it, if he wants it, he can take it. So hopefully Jack seeing that signing keeps him consistent and keeps him actually racing for the whole season. Their biggest wins for 2025, I could see them riding the high of Brazil and going into Brazil again and then just dominating. But a track I think would be fun is Australia. So race number 1, I think that would be, I hope that's very friendly to them. Not saying they have to, podium, but I think they can finish in like the top 8. Or at least Gasly can. So. And because we have to have a hot take, I've been saying it all previews since we started 2025. Alpine finishes over Mercedes. Oh, and they're going to double podium in Mexico or Vegas. There you go. What do you got to say, Kyle?
I don't know what's more wild, to think that you think they're finished ahead of Mercedes or a double podium. I don't know which one is more ridiculous.
Probably the double podium. For sure. I'm gonna admit that is that is the hottest of all the hot takes I've had. But
see, all you need is just one ridiculous crash from a rookie that takes out, like the Aston Martins and Mercedes. Like, you just needed a big enough crash where it takes out the big guns, and then it kind of
Stroll is still
them.
racing. We got the opportunity.
Yeah, but Stroll's gonna be crashing from the back.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I still see it happening. Somebody's gonna get pissed off at Max finally, and it's just chaos, fucking chaos. 1-2 podium on lap 54.
1-2 podium.
1-2. The last the Brazil double podium was 2-3, and that was wild. So you got a 1-2?
No. Wait. Not a 1-2.
Okay.
But I will say a double podium. So
okay, I was like, well, hold on. We have taken this way too far now.
I'm so sorry. I got ahead of myself. I'm so sorry.
Listen, I've said before, I think you're like the bravest person on this podcast for all your belief in Alpine. I love that you're standing on business with it every single episode and you're refusing to back down, except for that 1-2 podium, which I appreciate.
That was me getting ahead of myself.
I understand. Now look, again, if it happens, I think we all gonna owe you an apology. But yeah, I'm very much like, okay, honestly, my concern with Alpine is that they're trying to do a lot. Flavio Briatore apparently is shut down the Renault factory. It looks like he's positioning the team to sell. It's kind of what he does. It's kind of his repertoire when he's not fixing races. Look into that. But so you have that. You have 2 young drivers. One of them is a reserve driver who was the young, hot new driver in the second half of the season until he kept crashing the Williams car. Was it his fault? Was it the Williams car? Who knows? But he's ready to get back on the grid again. That's another battle that they're going to have. Pierre Gasly, keeping him happy, keeping him in contention. He is a talented enough driver. He probably should not be with Alpine. What are the ambitions there? How do you get him the kind of car that he kind of deserves and wants? And you see what he can do with it when he has a good car. Getting ready for 2026. And then you have Oliver Oaks, who you mentioned, as their team principal.
Yes.
He comes out and he's kind of like, wants everybody to shut up about the Jack doing and Franco Colapinto thing, calling everybody keyboard warriors. And it's like, ain't nobody being a keyboard warrior. Y'all literally hired this driver, and it looks like Jack gonna have you have two rookies that are sitting there, and one looks really hungry and the other one's just getting started. He hasn't been on the track in a car except for the end of the season.
Yeah.
To me, it feels like Alpine is doing a lot, and I worry about their focus when it comes to this season.
That was also, like, you mentioned, like, obviously they're doing a lot. That was when I was, like, doing a lot of research about this, they were just like, yeah, they made all these wholesale changes in the middle of the season, and then they improved so much. Now they're trying to slow it down. And I'm like, but where? There was a lot of movement. Well, I mean, with a lot of teams, there was a lot of movement. You're getting ready, you're trying to beef up a car that you know will be obsolete in 10 months. But you still need to race today. And I don't know if you're going to try to overcorrect. I'm hoping that they continue to make the gradual increases that they need so that when it's time for 2026 and they've seen, like, the components that can stay, then they apply that to the 2026 rules and build a car that can compete with third and fourth. So Mercedes, and even maybe an Aston Martin. Maybe, because we've also seen Aston Martin kind of like start hot and then fucking die. So, because they don't know how to adjust. Like, they adjust at the end of the season. They build it. We're looking at you run with Lewis Hamilton in third and fourth, and then all of a sudden, you remember you have Lance Stroll. So, then you're like, oh, whatever. So, I'm hoping that they don't take the overcorrecting route, and they can give Jack a chance. Like I said in my preview, he's kind of sporadic. I get that. He has a lot of downs before he has a lot of ups. Hopefully this is an up season. Otherwise, it's going to be a short season. So,
right. Yeah, I was going to say, especially like you're saying keyboard word, it's like, my guy, you hired 3 capable reserve drivers. You have Paul Aaron, who as a rookie in F2 was competing for the title until the last few races. You have Franco Colapinto, who we talked about, and then you have Ryo Hirakawa, who did pretty solid in his career. I mean, he's definitely on the older side, so probably won't jump in. But if he's done well in Le Mans and stuff, so it's like you hired 3 reserve drivers, and 2 of them are hungry rookies that are going to want that spot. It's like, you can't say we're being keyboard warriors when you have Duhan's potential, 2 of Duhan's replacements sitting right there ready to go.
Yeah, that's just the fascinating thing. And also for me, like, what are they going to focus on? If you're selling the team, are you focusing on 2026, or are you just trying to maximize results in 2025? In terms of getting results in 2025, I think that's what Alpine needs to hope, that they find that sweet spot. That teams like McLaren, maybe Red Bull, maybe Mercedes or whatever says, you know what, we ain't going to put a lot of energy, a lot of development, a lot of money or focus into developing this car. This season's going to be a wash. We're going to focus on 2026 because that's when we think we can make the biggest gains. If you start out it's like every time there's a new regulation set, there's always a team or two that starts off way ahead of everybody else, and everybody else has to catch up. But before they catch up, you can do a hell of a lot of winning. Mercedes showed us that. Red Bull showed us that, right? So everybody's trying to get ahead. So if those teams that think that a driver's championship and a constructor's championship could be won in 2026, maybe 2027, maybe 2028, if they get their design right for the new regs, maybe they just drop off. And if they drop off and Alpine's like, hey, we're going to keep putting the money into the 2025 car because the better everything looks from a success standpoint, the more valuable the team is going to be. I think, Ebony, that to me is the sweet spot. If that happens, you very well could be right, and this hot take could actually come true. Not the double podium, but that's not happening. but I mean, think about everything that had to happen in Brazil for that to happen. I don't think that happens again. But just in terms of Alpine finishing over Mercedes, if Mercedes looks to 2026, it's a real possibility.
How do I get to Vegas for that double podium?
Listen, I think at this point, Alpine needs to just send you there. I think they just need you to be there just to hope that this is something that happens. Maybe it's just good vibes. So if you're from Alpine or know anybody from Alpine, please contact us so we can let Ebony you can help Ebony get to Vegas, because I think you're going to need some outside spiritual help, and Ebony can maybe be the person that brings that to you.
For $1 a day, you can send a hopeful Alpine fan to Vegas.
A hopeful Alpine enthusiast.
Double podium.
That's incredible. Okay. Kyle, do you have anything else to say about Alpine? I know you're just shaking your head and
Absolutely
ready to talk
not.
about Mercedes.
I have no more to say.
Kyle's fed up with the Alpine love. I understand. All right.
That too, right there.
Listen, I can't wait. I honestly can't wait. All right. We're going to take a quick break, and then I'm going to talk about Aston Martin. All right, here we go. Aston Martin. This is going to be fun. So, their 2025 drivers, they are one of the rare teams that didn't have a shakeup in their driver lineup. It's Fernando Alonso and the ghosts of bad drivers all in one, Lance Stroll. That's who that is. Constructors in 2024, they finished fifth by default, really. Fifth feels like, oh, they weren't that far away from the top four. No, they were, because they had 94 points, and Mercedes, who was in fourth, had 468 points. Quite a few more than 94, and below them, Alpine had 65, which the vast majority of those are won in one race, as we just talked about. So they were firmly in fifth, but very much by default, not impressive at all during the season. Their drivers in 2024, Alonso finished 9th, and Lance Stroll finished 13th. Now, when you talk about changes in the garage and changes to the car, first let's start with the garage. There's a lot that's happened with Aston Martin. Lawrence Stroll, the owner, Lance's dad, Canadian billionaire, spent a ton of money and got a lot of investors as well. So that's another key thing. And initially, he was spending a lot of his own money. He's still spending a lot of his own money, but now there are other voices in the executive level, in the boardroom, should we say. But they opened up in, I believe it was September, when they completed the final building. They have this sprawling three-building campus for their new F1 factory setup. It's at Silverstone, actually, which is kind of interesting and wild that they're able to have one at an actual F1 track. But they have that. It is brand new. It's a thing that lured Adrian Newey, which I'll talk about him in a second. And they've made a lot of shakeup in terms of their management. So Mike Crack, who was one of the funniest names in motorsports, he used to be the team principal. He got shifted over to chief trackside officer. And Andy Cowell, who was the team CEO, is still the CEO, but now he's also taking on the duties as the team principal. I was listening to a couple podcasts about this, and it feels like, and it sounds like, the thinking behind it is to kind of lessen the number of voices kind of giving instruction, because they are growing massively with this factory and everything. They're going from a small team when he took over. I believe it was Force India when he took over the team. They were one of the smallest teams on the grid, employed like 200 people. They're thinking that once everything is fully staffed, they'll be at 1,000 or higher. So the idea seems to be to streamline the decision-making process. We'll see if that actually works, will or not. I mentioned Adrian Newey, the best designer in F1, car designer. He is just an absolutely genius engineer. When we talked about F1 before, Deepti, who is one of our co-hosts, who also happens to study, what is the aerodynamic engineering? Is that it? Is that what she studied?
I believe it's aerospace engineering.
There you go, aerospace engineering.
It's a pretty impressive thing. That's all.
Right. It's thinking I can't comprehend. But she did a little bit of chatting and talking about Adrian Newey and why he's important. So definitely go listen to that. But basically, there's a stat that says that his cars he has designed have won 19% of all F1 races. F1 is a historical sport. That's ridiculous. That is absolutely a ridiculous thing. So he's expected to give them a boost in terms of their engineering capacity. And also, they're going to have their own wind tunnel, which is really important. It's a state-of-the-art wind tunnel as well, because the data you get from the wind tunnel needs to be accurate. There's this thing that they always look at in terms of, it's kind of like a variance between the data and real life. You got to minimize that. And so their state-of-the-art wind tunnel should, in theory, have less variance, which will be interesting to see if that's actually true. Changes to the car this year. Don't know. It seems like they're really gearing all of this up for 2026 when the regulations change. That's what it feels like. But I think this is where Adrian Newey could also help them. As Ebony mentioned about Aston Martin, they have this history of starting strong and then just tailing off throughout the season. A lot of that is usually just they go in a wrong design direction. They follow a dead end when it comes to engineering or aerodynamics. So just having a little bit more guidance there should, in theory, help produce a better car. So this is the hard part. Where do they finish? Fernando Alonso. He finished 9th in 2024. It's actually quite low. I'm going to bump him up. I'm going to say, you know what? I'm not even going to bump him up that high. I'm going to say 8th because I honestly do think that you'll have a more capable driver in the Red Bull, which we'll get to, in Liam Lawson. And so Checo won't be doing what Checo is doing. So I think that Red Bull's going to take a spot, and I actually think it's going to be a little bit tough to crack that really top 6, I would say. So I'm going to put him 7th. Or did I say 8th? I already changed it.
You said 8th.
You said 8th.
All right. I'm going to keep him at 8th. Lance Stroll, whatever. I'm keeping it 13th. It ain't like it matters, right? Just like whatever. Constructors, I still think they're going to be 5th. I think if kind of what I said about Alpine, and that's kind of the dynamic throughout the grid, where some teams just kind of halt development on the 2025 car and focus on 2026, they're one of these teams that can do both. They'll have the staff and capacity to do both. And so I think they could, in theory, do a little bit better in the constructors than they did last time. The only problem is you need really solid drivers to do that, and really solid drivers finishing to accrue enough points, and they still employ Lance Stroll as their second driver. So I'm going to keep them at 5th. So their biggest challenge of 2025, it's Lance Stroll, straight up. And that's not even to like joke. It's just like they built everything up. Like Lawrence Stroll put in a bunch of money to build this team up, got the Aston Martin branding, had the 3-building campus that I just talked about. Like he's setting things up to got the best engineer in the game. He has to perform. He has to perform. He has to get better. He's been in the sport for a long time, actually. When you look at when he started, he's been an F1 driver for a while. I think actually close to a decade, which is kind of ridiculous. So like, it's like with everything that you've been given, you have, well, I'm not a decade because he's 26, but you know, whatever. I need to figure out when his actual F1 debut was. 2017, so I'm not wrong. All right, so it is quite close to a decade. It is not a decade, but still, I think he's the biggest challenge for them. His dad has a lot of faith in him, clearly. He wants him to be a world champion. I just don't see that ever happening. There are too many really, really good drivers and really, really good teams, and I just don't think you can make something like that happen, especially not with a cost cap restriction. He can spend all the money outside of that, but when he talks to spending money directly on the car, you can't have that money advantage anymore. So it is going to be interesting to see if he doesn't do well, what happens in the offseason. Is he gone when it comes to 2026? Because if you're pouring all of this money in there, I don't think a lot of people are going to want to stick around and be like, hey, let's just see what happens. And we can design the best car in the world, but we have one driver who's damn near 45, and we have another driver who's the boss's son who's not very good. That's putting a lot of effort and spending a lot of days and a lot of hard work and a lot of brain power and a lot of hours building something great that maybe neither one of them are in a position to maximize. So that, to me, is my biggest challenge in 2025. Their biggest win, honestly, they already did it. Signing Adrian Newey. That's their biggest win. Everybody thought that if he was going to leave, it was either going to be Mercedes, maybe it was going to be Ferrari. Ferrari was like the betting favorite for quite a long time, just because, hey, you go there, you got Lewis going there. Lewis has always wanted to work with him as well. It just seemed like a perfect fit. And Ferrari was like, nah, we got our own people. Plus, you want too much. And Lance Stroll was like, how much money you want? Write it on the piece of paper, and I'll just make it happen. And that's what happened. Their toughest track in 2025. It's hard to say what the track it will be specifically, because they followed this really strange trend in 2024 where, again, I said they started off strong and then they fell off. When I say fell off, they absolutely fell off. They scored 8 points in their last 6 races. And 6 of those 8 points were in Qatar, and then 2 of those were in Abu Dhabi. Those are the final races of the season. So, like, they did terrible in the Americas. They scored 0 points in Austin, 0 points in Mexico, 0 points in Brazil, and 0 points in Vegas. So I don't know how they can do much worse during that, but I think if you're looking at a bad stretch for them, it's that stretch. Their car was bad, and their drivers did not perform in any of those races. My hot take, this is going to be Lance's last season at Aston Martin. That's my hot take.
We didn't say your dream. We said hot take.
I mean, it makes sense because in 2026, Honda will be working with Aston Martin. Mm-hmm. There may or may not be a Japanese driver that might be done with their current team. That may have been mentioned earlier. So there is the possibility that Lance Stroll will have to make way to a Yuki Tsunoda. Maybe Drogovic, one of their reserve drivers. Who knows with Stroll? Stroll wants to win. As much as he loves his son, he still wants to win as well. So he will do what he needs to.
Until he does that. That's my biggest question. Like, yes, he wants to win, and he's spending a lot of money to set this team up to be great. Like, make a massive jump. Not just like we're going to be 4th, or we're going to, in a couple of years, we're going to be 3rd. Like, they want to have a Constructors' Championship soon. And also, they're going to need to do it to recoup some of that investment that he's made. So, like, the pressure is super on them. And I mentioned they have other investors. He's basically been courting a lot of investors from the Middle East. So Aramco is a Middle Eastern oil company. They're all over the car. They sponsor everything. He's brought in a lot of other money. Again, you bring in a lot of talent. You bring in a lot of shareholders. You may want Lance Stroll, your son, to be the recipient of all this, but there's going to be a lot of pressure from elsewhere to get him up out the paint. And I think that pressure is going to tell, because I don't think he's going to have a great 2025.
I do wonder if Aston Martin also kind of does this thing where they're looking for 2 drivers in 2026. Like, we talk about Lance Stroll.
You're upgrading my hot take to a spicy take. I like it. Keep going.
Like you said, Alonso's not going to be here for much longer in this sport. Why would you put him into a car that he's only going to race in for like maybe another year, if he does stay? So Aston Martin's got some choices to make. Absolutely, get Stroll out of here. Like, I'm tired of it. Okay, I'm tired of it.
Yeah, I'm kind of fed up as well. And Yuki would be great. I think Yuki would be like, he's like primed. He's hungry. He's definitely got a chip on his shoulder by now.
Still young.
Like, yeah,
well.
He's still young too. Like, I think he would be a great addition. And yeah, I feel you, Ebony. I do think that as much as Fernando Alonso is going to want to cling on to this, because like he's going to be like, I've suffered with y'all. Y'all owe me a good car and the ability to get back on the podium again. I don't know if they're going to want to do that, especially if they think that, like, if they're actually really, really good, like they get everything right and that car is rolling, like they're going to want young, like hungry talent in there. They're going to want somebody super competitive in there. Not saying that Fernando Alonso can't be that, but on July 29th, 2025, he will turn 44 years old. Lewis Hamilton just turned 40. So again, we are in an era of the athlete, like LeBron James. Okay, right? So we're seeing 40-year-old athletes do a ton of impressive things. 44? going against all the young talent, like 6 rookies this year. Like, you're going to have them with even more experience to go into 2026. Like, how long do you want to keep Fernando Alonso in this car? Because at some point, the reaction time slows. At some point, the adaptability for this generation of car wears away as the car continues to evolve and be something different than what he was used to. That's kind of a thing that may have happened to Checo as well. The car just evolved, and he just couldn't really keep up with it in order to keep driving it around at a competitive level. There's a lot of questions for Aston Martin to answer. I'm fascinated. I'm more fascinated for them in 2026 than I am 2025, but I do want to see the progress they can make in 2025 because I think that will tell us a lot about what to expect in 2026.
Who are their reserve drivers?
Drugovich is one who Kyle already mentioned. It's almost like he's one of those where a lot of rookies are getting a lot of chances, and it sucks that he's not one of them because he's been around for a while. But I'm not sure who else. Kyle, do you know of any others?
Yeah, there's Jack Crawford, who's an American. Was one of their academy drivers, so he's possibly going to be one of the options. Otherwise, I mean, they don't have like as deep of a driver academy as some of the other ones. So Drugovich is their main one. He's been there since 2022 as a reserve. They have Jack Crawford, who's racing at F2, and then they do have one person, Tina Hausman, who just competed in the F1 Academy. So those are that's really it for in terms of like reserve drivers. So I think Drugovich is just their main testing one.
Yeah, I know I've seen his name before. Also, I just looked it up as well. The F1 site is handy on this. They have the 2025 reserve drivers listed for Aston Martin. Stoffel van Dorn.
Oh.
A Belgian who's 32 years old.
Huh?
Yeah, so he's not really a threat, I would say, the way that a younger driver would be. But yeah, so honestly, that actually adds to it. Drugovich is 24, by the way. I think that actually really adds to it because if you're looking at potentially the top 2 seats being under threat for for Aston Martin, I think the reserve spots are too. They're probably going to need to do something with that, either let Drugovich go, give him an actual shot, but they're going to probably have to rebuild their driver lineup and their main drivers and the reserve drivers, to be honest. So, like, especially if the car is going to improve the way they hope, yeah, I think they're going to want more capable and more exciting and younger talent in there in both instances. So, yeah, that's fascinating. Stoffel van Dorn. I love that name. All right.
Oh, real quick, because I definitely forgot to tell you my toughest tracks for Alpine. I apologize. Any track that is super windy. So
like Zandvoort?
Yeah, that one's gonna hurt. God, that's gonna be terrible. Coda and Singapore. Singapore especially, that's just gonna destroy them.
I mean, they already have 4th wrapped up by then anyway, so it's all
right.
good.
So never mind. It doesn't even matter. You're right.
All right, Kyle is shaking his head again. Let's get Kyle talking about Mercedes now after a quick break. You've been patient. You've been good. You've dealt with all the Alpine enthusiasm, but now it's time to learn about Mercedes. Let's go.
All right, so Mercedes, last year was an interesting year because before all the races started, there was the shocking news that Lewis Hamilton was leaving Mercedes to go to Ferrari. We'll talk about that more a little bit later, but they finished 4th in the constructors. They had 468 points, as was mentioned, but it was a distant third. They were not even close to 3rd place. They had 4 wins, they had 9 podiums, so it wasn't a terrible showing, but compared to their competitors, not quite what Mercedes themselves would probably have wanted. George Russell had finished 6th with 245 points, and Lewis Hamilton finished 7th with 223 points in 2024. As I mentioned, in terms of changes in the garage, well, Lewis decided to take all of the mainstream relevance that Mercedes had, and then decided to go with Ferrari, which that fit makes complete sense. So what did they do instead? They decided to bring in Italian wonder kid Kimi Antonelli, who will replace Lewis Hamilton. Also, Valtteri Bottas returned as a reserve driver, so kind of nice. there's been some nice. They're trying to salvage whatever goodwill they have by bringing Bottas back. In terms of
I'm sorry, I have to say though, apparently they did tell Bottas that he can't be naked in calendars anymore because Petronas doesn't like that kind of thing, and I feel
Instant
like
relegation. 10.
Let that man show his booty.
You know, I'm sure Bottas will find a way. He will find a way. That's all. In terms of what changes to the car, I don't know what every year Mercedes does something drastic and ridiculous. One year they decided we're just not going to have side pods. That was a choice. Was not a good choice. But they did that one time. Last year in the W15, they decided to move the seat forward after finally listening to Lewis Hamilton, and he was saying, yeah, move the seat closer. So they did that. They decided to change the suspensions, had a different side pod shape. I don't know what they're going to do with the W15. We'll probably see when they do the reveal. Again, it's probably going to be something drastic. Probably going to be something that I would not have thought of. So that's the changes to the car. I couldn't tell you, but they always do something ridiculous. Where do I think they're going to finish? Well, I think as a constructor, they're going to finish third.
Ooh.
I think it's a big ask.
Alpine second?
No. No. They're going to finish third because I don't fully trust Red Bull. Red Bull also throwing a quote-unquote rookie in Liam Lawson. Max Verstappen is going to have to do a lot of the heavy lifting, pretty much what he did last year. I think Mercedes with a little bit more of a balanced car and with a better driving pair than Red Bull, that will get them up to third. The weird part is I have the drivers finishing 6th and 7th. I have George Russell finishing 6th, and I have Kimi Antonelli finishing 7th. I think George could do pretty solid. It's just tough to really see him doing better than both the Ferrari drivers, both the McLaren drivers, and Max. So that's kind of the tough part. So I think George being 6th, then I have Kimi Antonelli finishing 7th, and the biggest reason for that is my hot take, which I will get to. Their biggest challenge for 2025 is how do you handle the loss of your biggest star? How do you handle the guy that pretty much got you 8 straight Constructors' Championships? How do you replace what Lewis Hamilton did? That's going to be a big ask, and also managing the expectations with Antonelli. Like, he's coming in probably in the hottest seat out of any of the drivers this year. So trying to keep that. But then also, while yes, you want to aim as high as possible, how do you stay in touching distance with Ferrari and McLaren, who are going to be substantially ahead of everyone else? What does Mercedes have that can allow them to get back into it? Because like I said, they did win 4 times, but one of those wins was because Lando and Max crashed each other in Austria. The other win was, yes, Lewis Hamilton did an amazing drive in Silverstone. The other win was a supposed Mercedes 1-2 in Belgium, but again, that kind of fell apart when George got disqualified, and the last one was Vegas. So yeah, they did okay, but the car was not as quick as Red Bull. It didn't have the straight line speed. And that's where it comes to their biggest, toughest tracks in 2025. Basically, if the track isn't cold. We said this last year, Mercedes does really well when it's cold outside or when the track is cooler. Most notably Canada, when George had gotten podium. He was contending for most of the race with the rain. Same with Lewis Hamilton. If you look at their stretch in the summer, all of those were at cooler temperatures or at places that are just naturally colder. And then you look at Las Vegas, that was a cold track and allowed their tires to handle that and not grain as much as other teams, which is why they're so impressive. So if the W16 is similar to the W15, I'm going to say a lot of the warmer tracks, especially when you start getting to out in the Middle East, when you get to Azerbaijan, when it gets to, Australia shouldn't be as hot, but still pretty hot. That's what I'm curious to see how that car is going to really do on tracks that aren't cooler or non-night races. I think their biggest win, I guess they don't have to pretend that they view George as the number 1 driver, which, there was email leaks there were leaks that were saying like, yeah, George, we're going to prefer George over Lewis. Now they don't have to play that charade. Now they don't have to act like, oh, okay, Lewis is leaving. We all know it. And he's still here, though. We still got to try and help him out. But we also have one eye looking forward to the future. they don't have to play that charade. So I guess that's a win for them because now they can just solely stick with George as their number one driver and is established. There's no awkwardness. There's no confusion. Is that really a win? That's up for you to decide. But I think in Mercedes' eyes, that's a win for them. And my hot take is Kimi will finish 7th because he will have wins. Yes, wins in 2025. I think he wins at least 2 races in the year. I've already talked about Mercedes doing better in cold weather. I've already mentioned how Antonelli is a special talent in the rookie preview. I can see him pulling out if he qualifies well enough, I think he can do kind of a start to finish if he's like first or second, I can see him being able to stay up there. So multiple wins for Kimi Antonelli this rookie season.
That is indeed a hot take.
That is.
That would be wild. But also, honestly, I think the way and we talked about this in the rookie preview, but the pressure that kid is under, it's almost like if he won 2 races, my initial reaction would be like, damn, he really did it. Like, this kid is really good. But also I'd be like, well, I hope so. They were fine dumping Lewis Hamilton for this kid. Like, they wouldn't give Lewis the contract length that he wanted because they wanted to make sure they held on to Kimi. So he better be that good. So, like, he's almost in a no-win situation. I do want to talk about their car real quick, though. You mentioned they always do wild stuff with their car. I think Mercedes is so hard to predict because everything that we heard throughout last season in 2024 was they don't know anything about their car. Like, they don't know why it works well in cold weather. They don't know why when it works well, they're like, great, it was a great weekend. We don't know why. We don't know what we did. When it's bad, they're like, we're not sure why. We don't know what happened. And I feel like that's not good. And so have they figured out their car yet? Do they understand it yet? I don't know if they're going to have any more answers than they had last year. And if they don't, it's going to be another very strange year.
Yeah, it's odd. And it was very clear like last year's car was going to be better than the year before because everyone was saying that even in like February, Lewis and George were both like, yeah, this is much better. This is a much better car. So that just shows how bad the W14 was.
Yeah.
Which again is shocking considering the car before that had no side pods. They were like, yeah, we're not going to. They had to put side pods in because it was so bad that year. So I don't know. And I think the thing with Kimi is I feel like there's going to be a lot of variance. He's going to have races where he's contending for podiums, winning races. He might also have some races where he's finishing like 10th, 11th, 12th. Like, he is going to be very high variance. While George, I think, will be more consistent, which is why I have him ahead of Kimi.
No, wait. Because what happens if Kimi is actually performing better than they expected, and they have to look at George Russell and go, are you really the number 1 driver? Are we going to get a McLaren situation again this year?
That is exactly what I'm hoping for.
I don't think it happens this year, but I think by the end, it gets to be a really hard conversation, and in 2026, it absolutely will be the conversation that will be had.
Ooh.
Because you remember, like, George's whole thing was, I'm going to beat Lewis. Like, that was George's whole thing. Like, when Lewis was trying to, like, manage the tires and, like, go through, like, just eat up laps. Just get through the race until you can, like, change the tires and go on an attack. George would be like, he's going so slow. What is he doing? And he'll just zoom by and burn up his tires. And it's like, dude, you are singularly focused right now on beating one person within a span of like 5 or 10 laps. You have the entire race to go. Finally, they prioritized him because Lewis said he was bouncing, and we saw that he performed better. Like, he managed his tires better. He was battling when the car was good. He was battling for wins and whatnot. Like, he was in podiums. He was good. It would be so funny if now Kimi's the driver behind him. Like, this dude's going so slow, like, get him out of my way. And you try to, like, now he's the one putting pressure on George, and George is in the Lewis role. Like, can you tell this kid to chill out? Like, it's a long race. Like, he needs to chill. I really want that dynamic. One, just so George can know how annoying it is.
I will say, I feel like it's that meme where it's like, okay, what's the next step? He's going to be like, I don't know, I didn't think I'd get this far. It's like, yeah, I was so focused on beating Lewis, I didn't really know what to do next.
Right. It's like a dog that catches a car. Like, what are you going to do with a car? Like, okay, you got it. Now what? So it is going to be fascinating to see, like, team leader George. But I really, like, honestly, as much as I talk shit And I think it's wild what Mercedes did to Kimi. I'm excited for this kid. I hope he's every bit as good as they say. One, because I think we just need like a new crop of really good drivers. Like we kind of know where most of the ceiling is. Like I think Lando probably has like another little step in him. I think Oscar has another couple steps in him. But like in Leclerc, I think if they give him a really good car, he's definitely to me, he's a future like driver's champion. Like he could be that. But I would like to see some of these kids show that kind of talent too. Like show us that you can be a future driver champion, because I think we're all kind of looking for like the post Max Verstappen era. And we kind of want to see like who's going to be next and the kind of fights we can get in. So I'm super excited for all of these rookies and really rooting for a lot of them. And Kimi with the hype, I really hope. Like I would love to see him win a couple races. That'd be great for his career, but also his self-belief, and also for Mercedes and Toto Wolff to be like, okay, all right, everybody will back off now. Clearly you were right. So I am hoping that happens for that reason.
What? So you'll give it for Kimi but not Jack? That's crazy.
No, it's not.
I was going to say, it's actually the most normal thing. Jack's not in that class. I think we already know that, unfortunately.
Yeah, but still.
You can hope Pierre beats George. You can have that You can have that. Whatever.
I mean, listen, we could get by the 7th race of the season, Jack might not even be there. So that's not something you can say about Kimi. So I'm sorry. Like, it's just not going to happen. I'm sorry. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, I'm fascinated by this battle. I'm fascinated by Mercedes and what they look like post Lewis. So I'm interested to see what happens, especially if they do it again and have it. Because Adrian Newey did say that he looks at the regulations and he said it's going to be a power unit driven regulation. That's fascinating. Mercedes makes the McLaren that won was a Mercedes engine, which kind of makes Mercedes look a little silly. But Mercedes has a power advantage when it's about the engine more than it is the aerodynamics. They're really, really good, and so that's going to be interesting if that is true. I think that's fascinating to see what Mercedes can come up with when it comes to their power unit. But that's for 2026, not 2025. So I got ahead of myself there.
All I'm asking Mercedes is just have a logical car. Don't do anything drastic. Just slight tweaks. Don't drastically change your floor. Don't drastically change your suspension like you did last year. Don't not have side pods. Keep a simple car.
Alpine shocked the world. That's all I got.
Wow. Couldn't even let Kyle get through his whole Mercedes thing segment without bringing your Alpine into it. I'm sorry, Kyle.
It's fine. By the end of the season, I'll be right. It's fine.
Fair enough. All good. Thank y'all for these team previews. It was good to dive into each team. We're going to continue that on. We have the top 3 coming up next. It's going to be Red Bull. It's going to be Ferrari. It's going to be McLaren, last year's Constructors champion. So we'll do those. Look out for that hitting your feeds very, very soon. Until then, vroom, vroom.
Vroom, vroom.